Okay, nothing like following a world expert. So I'm going to plug in here. I think I'm getting it. Can you hear me? Okay, it's an honor to be here, and I'm really excited to share kind of the other end of the spectrum, from acute spinal cord injury to kind of the longer term care and some of the things we're doing in the community. When working with some of these folks that have experienced these types of injuries and other comorbidities that tend to complicate their lives extremely, and also bring them back in the hospital repeatedly due to many factors we'll be talking about. Sally really had to twist my arm to come today because I just got married a few months ago, and so it's really hard for me to come away on the weekends from my beloved. I want you to know I love nurses enough, and I am very, very respectful of Dr. V, and now Dr. Beasley's like at the top of my list. It's an honor to follow you. And so Sally won out, and here I am, and I'll be meeting up with my fellow in a few hours. So you'll be hearing a little bit more about that wedding, and it ties into a beautiful story that involves Dr. V, which he didn't even know. And don't you love how life works when I knew I was coming here, and then all the pieces of the puzzle that I put together, let me make sure I'm getting to the right, oops. Okay. That all the pieces of the puzzle come together and you didn't even know it? Oh, I love that. Well, so I'm a little more esoteric. I do like evidence-based medicine, but I'm a little more looking at the whole picture for the patient. Luckily, we have these wonderful trauma surgeons and neurosurgeons, and I really respect highly my neuro and orthopedic nurses at LUH. Thank you for your good work. And now you're going to get the softer side of medicine and some of the things we're doing. So we just joined Centura Healthcare System. We're the 16th hospital to join Centura, and we're the first secular hospital. This is a big deal because we're bringing in a lot of non-religious types of ideas and suggestions, which is one of the reasons they asked us to join them. So we're breaking some new turf for the largest healthcare system in Colorado. So a new paradigm is shifting for all of us because of the Affordable Care Act. Reimbursement's driving the way we deliver care. And honestly, reimbursement drives care. And if you don't believe that, well, we probably need to have a talk because healthcare and hospitalized care is going to shift. How many of you work in a hospital setting? Okay, how many of you work in a clinic setting? Okay, and how many of you work like for home care or maybe long-term care? You folks there? Okay, great. So it looks like we have hospital and clinic and a little bit of longer-term care. So basically what's going on is we've moved kind of out of the fee-for-service payment structure. We are now in more pay-for-performance, value-based purchasing. If people keep coming back into your hospital, especially within 30 days with the same diagnosis, you actually don't get paid for that. And if they come back a lot, and the same type of patients come back a lot, you actually pay a penalty. That's called value-based purchasing. We are moving from that wave of value-based purchasing to population health management. This is all a huge shift for all of us, and it even impacts our physicians and their care that they give in their clinics because they're now getting evaluated by how many of their patients are returning to the hospital. So I'm truly shifting you kind of out to the broader perspective of how we're dealing with this over time. And we still do have one foot on the dock and one foot on the boat. We're still getting paid kind of in one system, but we're really getting pressured to move to another way of delivering care. Do you all feel that in your different roles? Yes. I'm telling you, I feel that. So just to give you a little more background, I am one of the first babies born at Longmont United Hospital, and I've been a nurse there my whole career. This year it's 34 years. And so I know I haven't seen a whole lot of the world, but I did go to China, which you'll see here in a minute. And I'm just very, very passionate about a few things that you're about to hear about. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about, even though you all work in a hospital or a clinical setting, where do most of our patients spend their time? At home, in the community. And what we tend to do in healthcare is load them with so much information when they're in the hospital that they're completely overwhelmed. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
So I'm here to tell you today about some of the ways that we're going to move away from some of that trending and into some new innovation. I'm the rebel, I'm the strategic visionary at our hospital, and that hasn't always been fun because, as my team of nurses know, I've been considered a little way out there at times. And, and I'm just a little farm girl from Niwot. So we're going to talk about a few more things though. So as part of Centura Health now, which we're all just learning about, so don't think I'm an expert on Centura. We've really only been a part of the Centura system since August. But they have a new philosophy of care, and it's called Get Better, Get Different. That we're kind of creating the same models of care which keep getting people spiraling into the hospital. And so they want us to get different and to get innovative. They're now creating in our system neighborhood health centers. You're going to be seeing these pop up everywhere. And this is where we actually look at non-medical goals. We're finding that if we look at the patient's cherished life goals, instead of let's talk about your COPD, how about we talk about what you love and enjoy most in life? What do you cherish? And then it's amazing where you can go with their health. So I'm going to teach you a little bit about what we're doing, and I'm telling you we're still new at this, but I'll share with you what we're trying. And we've been given permission by Centura to do this. So I'm pretty happy. So transitions of care. I'm a nursing director of our outpatient ambulatory care coordination, which is going to probably be the most rapid growing portion of healthcare. Healthcare futurists say that within about 5 years, 40 to 50% of our bedside nurses are going to be moving from the bedside to actually care teams in the community. And that's probably not surprising to all of you. We're seeing census along the Front Range and all of our hospitals drop. So what are we going to do? We're transforming healthcare by pulling out care from the hospital setting into the community. We're even seeing some hospitals do ICU care in the home. And it's done now through a lot of virtual monitoring. There's a lot of different ways care is going to be delivered. Why? Because we have the most expensive health care in the world. And do we need phenomenal doctors like Dr. V and Dr. Our wonderful Dr. Kara? Yes, we do. My gosh, that is beautiful and respected care. But we're also looking at how do we manage this with 72 million baby boomers coming into the aging market. Our system truly would collapse if we don't change it. And this isn't even a political thing, even though this year is going to be the presidential election. It's going to be interesting to see where it goes. But the Affordable Care Act is here for at least the time being, and we all have to play by those rules. So I'm going to talk to you about getting back to some core principle basics, and I really loved the closing comments of, trust your skills, trust that intuition. If you don't feel like something's right, it's probably not. And that's kind of where we're going is with all of this is how do we really come back full circle with our patients, listen, engage, and acknowledge and help them become more responsible. We've really created a healthcare system where our patients are fairly dependent on us. And they really haven't been activated and empowered. So we're going to talk about that. We're talking, like I said, medical goals versus create your life goals. And we're working with patients where when they come in the hospital and they're in-stage COPD or in-stage CHF, we're trying to drill a lot of information into them. And I'm telling you right now, they don't care. They could care less. They don't care how their lungs function. They want to just get out and maybe see that grandchild. Maybe they want to go on a trip. Maybe they want to just be able to climb their stairs. So here is one of our telemetry care plans, and this is I just threw it in there because what I see when I go in now and look at what the patient's been experiencing while they're in the hospital, we usually see nursing goals with a line drawn all the way across to the intervention. Does that ring a bell with anyone? Okay, so we've got to move now back to what are the patient's goals and build our whole plan of care around the patient goals. So we tend to be in a system, and we have to be, when they have acute spinal cord injury and trauma, we have to do that checklist. You know, ABCs, are they breathing? Are they alive? If not, we failed. I did relate a little bit to the anal pinpricking because I am an acupuncturist, and there is actually some acupuncture points in the perineum that we do for drowning patients that actually stimulate the system enough that it can really help revise and revitalize a patient that's in that situation. So I was going, that's interesting. So, you know, I look for things in all lectures that I can relate to. Falls. We also have gotten so scared of falling in our system that we now have people going home who don't walk. Any of you see that? Oh my goodness. We we can't really tie them into bed anymore, but we have such good beds that if they get out of them, we know it. And we don't want them out of that bed. And I'm telling you, now we're seeing huge readmission issues due to immobility while they're in the hospital. You do not, as a gerontological nurse, you do not take an elderly person and even put them in bed for 3 days. I thought it was interesting that you can get a pressure sore, especially on a thin person, that starts within 20 to 30 minutes. We're seeing that, and so we've got to move our patients more. So you're going to hear now what we're doing with all this. So Eric Coleman, were any of you, I know some of my staff who's here, were any of you at the Healthy Transitions meeting last Friday that was sponsored by Colorado Hospital Association? Just hope be. So Dr. Eric Coleman was there. He's a geriatrician, and he has these 4 pillars that he thinks are vital for all of our patients. So I've sent staff to be trained with him. He makes big money now. He talks all over the United States. And his 4 pillars say that we need to manage their meds, they need a personal health record, they have to have a follow-up appointment scheduled within 2 weeks of discharge, and they need to know their red flags. We'd all agree those are important, right? Yes. Well, that's good and fine, but I'm telling you, those don't just keep people out of the hospital. We have learned and we've added to those, and so we have seen that movement. We need to see, and this is aside from what physical therapy does in the hospital, we need to see how people are moving before they go home. So I've actually hired an exercise specialist to come and move all of our patients before they go home that we're really worried about being readmitted. Because sometimes PT doesn't see all of our patients, right? And some of them, they've met maximum function, so maybe they're just totally debilitated, but they're still at maximum function, so there's no skill for PT to meet. So then that's where my new movement specialist comes in, gets our folks moving, see how they do. Nutrition, it's something notoriously in healthcare we really don't talk about because it's not been important up until now. We think it is, but we think there's one more pillar that's more important than all of these, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. The most important pillar of all is engagement. And the way we engage is going to form how our healthcare system functions in the future. It is vital. So, I'm going to talk to you about engagement. How we're engaging our community is we have one of the oldest patient and family advisory councils in the state of Colorado. Our PFAC has been meeting for 24 years. Because we started a PFAC back in about 1992, we asked them, what do you want this hospital to look like? What is important for you as a community member, as a patient of this hospital, to have our hospital do? They said, we really want this hospital to swim upstream and bring us a more broader perspective of caring for ourselves. We want things like massage therapy to soothe our aching bones and muscles. We want acupuncture as an alternative way of dealing with pain. We would like to have some real good advice on herbal medicine and supplementation. Because what we get out there is kind of not real reliable. So we would like to have some good herbal therapy and nutrition therapy and that type of thing. And so they sent me to China back in 1994. 74 members of our community did a fundraiser and sent me to China, where I went with the American Society on Aging to study with the Chinese Commission on Aging. And I went through 4,000 miles of China. There were a lot of things that we don't want to emulate, but one of the things I noticed is the respect for the older adults is very high. How many of you mainly see older adults in your hospital? And some youngsters. But I can tell you on any given day, more than 50% of our patients are over the age of 65. So if you don't like gerontology, you probably shouldn't be in a hospital, because that's who you're going to keep seeing, unless you work in OB and deliver babies, which is fine. It's a fun place to work, but you're going to see a lot of older adults. So we engage our Patient and Family Advisory Council. They sent me to China, and here's some of the things we've done. We've started the largest integrative therapy center that's hospital-based in the state of Colorado, and probably one of the oldest in the United States. So when I got back from China, we started hiring our first massage therapists. And remember, I'm an old ICU and telemetry nurse. This was new for me. We now do over 10,000 visits a year, and our growth is 14% annually. Our physician advisor, here's some of the services we offer. We do every type of acupuncture and massage therapy that you could possibly imagine. I've hired all of the best in our county. They actually have taught, they're professors at different schools, and they're actually helping us build a whole new program where we're going to be working with the whole Centura system. So right now, our physician advisor, our chief physician advisor is an ED doc, Dr. Reed Caldwell. We asked Dr. Caldwell to be our physician advisor because what we're seeing, and he and I are going on TV in about 2 weeks to talk about this, we're actually seeing patients that frequently come into our ED being sent directly to integrated therapies. Why? Because they're coming in with chronic pain, PTSD, anxiety, a lot of different things that we've kind of maxed them out maybe on pharmaceuticals, and some of them are looking for more pharmaceuticals. And so we're really trying to come up with more strategic ways of helping nurture and love and care for our patients in a way that I think helps people stay a little bit more connected to the community. This is our Storycatchers program. So I'm the co-chair of our PFAC, our Patient and Family Advisory Council, with the woman on the far right. She's a retired nursing director out of Florida, and she came to Longmont to live after retirement, and she's our co-chair of our PFAC. She's just joined our PFAC about 2 years ago. But she is a story catcher. So she goes in now, especially with Mavis, who's in charge of our transitional care unit, which is our in-house SNF. She comes in and sees Mavis patients and catches their story. What is going on with this patient that's really not medically related? We want to share their story. We have seen it change the way care is delivered. We have also seen some story catchers come in and catch stories at the end of life, maybe with the family members, read that story back to the patient, and the patient decides it's okay to leave within 1 to 3 hours of having that story read. Instead of laying there and dwindling and, you know, hanging on for another week. Some of them say, I finished. Writing this story has helped me finish my life. It's profound stuff, and I know it sounds kind of woo-woo and simplistic, but I think what happens in healthcare is we tend to over-medicalize when maybe we need to come back to the basics of love, listening, care, connection, engagement. So we have hired some master coaches, and I just hired Hopi, who's back here, right there she is, and she comes from our emergency department. And she loves working in the emergency department, but she loves working for us too. I snatched her away, and I also snatched another nurse away from our 5th floor, which is med-surg, a charge nurse, because I like that they have that knowledge of those areas to help me figure out How do we reach those folks? How do we reach them from an outpatient side? Because that's where they are the most. How do we find them? So Hopi's working with one of our patients right now who comes into our ED, has come into our ED probably about every 2, maybe 3 times a week. She's probably been in our ED this year, what, Hopi, 300 times? At least. And so she's got a mental illness, but we wonder if she has a mental illness or she's just not connected. So just this last week, we threw her a birthday party. One of our hospitalists came. We had our chaplain there. We're getting better, we're getting different. Instead of loading her up with more meds, which is what we've tended to do, we're now like engaging her on a personalized, humanized, and demystified level. So what else we've done, because we have this high level of retired baby boomers coming into our retirement here in Longmont and Boulder County area, we've decided to set up care partners. So we have retired licensed clinical social workers. We have retired nurses, retired hospice nurses, retired nursing directors. And what we're doing is putting them through a training with our master coach, which are nurses, and then these folks have a caseload of 1 or 2. They go in and meet with our patients that are readmitted. They follow them home. They visit them at home. They do phone calls. What they do, folks, is they become their friend. It's a social model, and it keeps people out of the hospital. And it's really affordable. And it gives these folks a purpose to their life, too. So, engagement. The other thing we do in our community is we have an adult daycare. I know there's one in Boulder also. We have 42 participants now, and I know our adult daycare keeps folks out of the hospital. They pay $65 a day to be in our daycare. We also start now at preschool and first grade. We have what's called the Healthy Learning Paths. So we're sending our nurses into preschools and elementary schools to talk with children about healthy patterns of eating, expressing themselves emotionally, behaviors. We're swimming way upstream. We partner with the Senior Center to run weekly clinics, and we also do a lot of programming there, helping our community members navigate the healthcare maze. Again, swimming way upstream before people even have to be in the hospital. We're teaching them, how do you really use the emergency department? How do you use urgent care? What do you need to know about when you come in the hospital? Do you have a hospital checklist? These are the things you need to know about. Do you know what observation status is? Because you're going to be responsible for some cost in that. Do you know what the 3 midnight rule is? If you're wanting into long-term care, do you know you're probably not going to be here long enough, so you're going to end up having to private pay? So we're teaching them all up front. We do monthly advanced directive classes in the community. We think the best place for people to start their advanced directives is not when they're in the OR waiting for surgery. We think the best place to start advanced directives is in the community when they're well, with their loved ones by their side. And we do these, we've been doing them for 15 years, and we have 20 to 25 people that come to our advanced directive classes every month. We teach them everything they need to know. We teach them about the MOST forms and DNR status. And then when they come into their hospital, they're prepared. They're prepared. And then we're also part of the Conversation Project, which is a countywide, we've been deemed a conversation-ready county for end of life, and this is a big, huge effort. If you haven't heard about the Conversation Project, I encourage you to go and look at it. One of my staff sits on the advisory board for it. We just received a big grant, and there's going to be some really big work coming out of this project that's going to really impact end-of-life care. So Bill Isle, Dr. V, this is one of your patients. I called him this morning and I said, I didn't put all these pieces together, but I said, who did all your surgeries on your spine? He goes, that'd be Dr. V. And I'm like, wow, I'm with him today, and I just met him for the first time. And I said, are you cool with me just talking about everything? And he goes, yeah, tell Dr. V I said hi. Hi. Dr. V has done 4 surgeries on Bill, 2 cervicals. And Bill is my personal transition of care patient. Okay, even though I'm a director, to understand what we're really doing, I have to take some patients on so that I can really be in there with my staff. This is my dude. This is my dude. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about this dude. So he has had 33 surgeries. He is gluten intolerant. He is the past president of the National Celiac Sprue Association. So he's a national speaker on gluten intolerance. He's a very wise man. He's called the canine whisperer in our community. He's trained over 25,000 dogs in our community without using food. He uses love. He has chronic pain to the degree that none of us would even understand. He has such chronic pain. Probably a lot due to his chronic common variable immune deficiency. And he comes to our Integrative Medicine Center once a month so we can massage him, get our hands on him, help him with his pain, and then he comes and meets with me. Do you remember when the tornado hit in Larimer County was the area? He's one of the 5 houses that was destroyed. I thought for sure Bill was going to get readmitted, right? That's a pretty big stressor, losing your house, especially when he was in it. He was in it, and he said, Michelle, I've just gone to the basement when the tornado took the whole top of my house off. So that was in May when that tornado struck, and then he came in to see me in beginning of June, and I was just getting ready to get married at the end of June, and I thought, oh my goodness, I hope Bill's doing okay. I said, I've been so worried about you, Bill. Are you okay? You know, when I heard that the tornado hit on Blue Mountain Road, I said, I was calling you, because I knew that's where he lived. And he said, yeah, my phone went with the tornado, so that's why I couldn't answer it. And he said, but Michelle, I'm doing okay. And I said, why? What's helping? And he said, so much love. He said, everybody, the sheriff's department, the state patrol, the fire department. Michelle, so much love. And he said, you know, are you getting married in 2 weeks? And I said, yeah, because I've invited you. And he said, I understand you don't have anyone to walk you down the aisle. He said, may I have the honor of walking you down the aisle? And I said, I would be so honored. So Bill stepped into my wedding and walked me down the aisle. And here I bring him today. I had no idea. I put him in this. I had to have this PowerPoint turned in on Monday. I had no idea until I put all these pieces together that this was Dr. V's patient. So life is lovely and wonderful. What I think I've been able to impact with Dr. V's help, he does the hard work, and then I get to sit down with Bill and go, Bill, why are you in so much pain? Let's talk about some things you're doing that may be impacting you. And I said, I have this kind of intuition as a nurse that maybe you're eating something you shouldn't be eating. And he got really quiet for a few minutes. And he goes, Michelle, I've never told anyone this. And he goes, I have a jelly bean addiction, but a bad one. Everywhere this man goes, have you guys even heard of belly flops? I mean, I've learned what belly flops are because of Bill. They're the jelly beans that stick together, and they sell them for a lot cheaper because they're flops. Get it? Belly flops. So he has bags of belly flops. He goes, I stuff both of my pockets when I leave the house. I have a bag in my car. He goes, I have a jelly bean addiction. And I'm going, you know, maybe it would help your immune system if we got you off jelly beans. And I said, I'm not even practicing medicine here, you know, without a license. I'm just saying, can we wean you off your jelly beans? So for the last couple years, I've been working on getting him off his jelly beans, and he hasn't been in the hospital since November of 2013. And this is a man who's been in our hospital over 300 times, and I put counting at 300. This is a man I'm working with right now, and so I wanted to share with you, I just literally got this fellow. He's my other guy I decided to follow because he's been frequently readmitted with, he's a heavy drinker and a heavy smoker, in-stage COPD, and he comes in with alcohol Usually he can't breathe, but he's so drunk that then he goes through DTs, right? Last time he was in December, he got put on the vent. He was so sick, we sent him to Boulder Manor. He got a little better and he walked out of Boulder Manor on his own, and then went home and a couple weeks got readmitted with his end-stage COPD. I mean, we just weren't helping this guy. So my team and I decided, let's hit it from a get better, get different perspective. So we went in with, because he also has some MRSA, we went in with our gloves and gowns and all that on. And I said, Scott, are you willing to be like our champion patient so we can learn from you? Well, I guess so, you know. So anyhow, I pulled in a bunch of team and I said, okay, I go, I'm going to talk to you about your goals. And he goes, oh God, you guys always ask me about my goals. And I go, this is a little different, Scott. What brings you joy? What makes you happy? What's your cherished life goal? Like, what do you want to accomplish? And he goes, financial independence. I said, good goal. I said, so do you have a means to do that? And he goes, yeah, I make jewelry. And I said, okay, so where's your jewelry being sold? And he goes, well, right now I'm not sure. It's on a website somewhere, but nothing's selling. And I said, well, how about if we sell it in our Health Center of Integrative Therapies? Because I have a volunteer art curator, and we show all of our community art for the community artists, and then we sell it for them. And I said, I have a case sitting empty right now in my center. And he goes, he turns, he hadn't looked at anybody in the eye, and he turns and he looks at me and he goes, do you think I'm an artist? I go, I bet you are. He goes, really? You would do that? I said, you bet, I'll do that. So, 2 weeks ago, I met him. He hadn't let any home care in his house. He hadn't been to any of his follow-up appointments. He walked out of Boulder Manor. And so I said, we're just going to play this whole jewelry thing, right? So anyhow, long story short is I'm the first person he's ever let in his house. So I go in his house. His family's totally, right? And so I'm like, and what I just said to him, I go, dude, you need a friend. And I'm your friend. And he goes, well, then you're my only friend. And I'm like, I'll be your friend. I actually kind of like him, you guys. He's a really talented, I know, us nurses, we're just like, you know, we're softies. Anyhow, long story short is, I called his brother. There's a reality show called The Prospectors. Have any of you heard of that? So his brother prospects all the gems and Scott makes all the jewelry. And they're in the show Prospectors. So I said, I got to see this jewelry. I don't know what I'm getting myself into. His brother takes me to Rocky Mountain Gems and Mineral. We look at it. I'm like, this dude's good. Last night I went over to his house. These are earrings made by Scott. Monday, all his jewelry has been brought over from Boulder and is going on display and for sale in our center. He is coming to our place now. He went to his follow-up appointment. And he's letting our paramedicine program go in now and work with him. And I said, now you have two friends, me and Darren. And he goes, well, then those are the only two friends I have. Tonight, my husband and I are supposed to go see a band play. Scott's a lead guitarist. And I've asked him to join us. Really, he said, you want me to go? You bet. I'd love to have you go. With one contingency, no drinking. He said, you got it. He goes, I'm on the wagon, you know. I said, I know you are. So anyhow, love. Love, love, love. We've got to move from medical goals, even though they're important, to patient activation. How do we activate these lowly activated patients? This is the way. You find out what makes them tick. So challenges remain. We still got to pull all these pieces together. And there's a lot of them. Some of our patients love being in the hospital. We still have a system that kind of enables our patient. We have some physicians who still practice in the old model of care, not in this more population health-based management or value-based care. There is hope, and there is a key to the solution around all of this, and that is love and connection. So, Mother Teresa says it best, if we have no peace, it is because we have forgotten that we belong to each other. Thank you. you really are intrigued by jewelry with turquoise and precious gemstones mined from Colorado mountains, please come to the Health Center of Integrative Therapies and I'll at least give you a tour. Any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
What's the payment structure for the complementary medicine?
Medicare and Medicaid do not pay any of those fees, so it's either private pay or scholarship. I do have community members that have donated up to, right now I have $80,000 in my scholarship fund provided by donations from community members. We've been in wills for people who have passed on that we've helped. We had a $50,000 donation from a will. So if they can afford anything, even if they're Medicaid, I have them pay something because then they're invested in their care. So I rarely ever do anything for absolute free, but I do if I need to.
So when they come into the ER and you send them right to that center, how does that transition? Like you come in, you pay your ER, go over to the complementary center, and how does that?
So if the ER calls us and says, we're sending a person down who's a vet, who has PTSD, I make sure, I usually have 7 or 8 staff working every day, so I go to one of them and say, can we get you to stay a little later? This one, it's a referral from the ED, we'll be doing the first visit at no charge.
And you located in the hospital?
No, and that's why we succeed. Usually anything that's a part of the hospital is considered medical, and people don't want to come there. We're off campus. We're in with a lot of orthopedic surgeons, gastroenterologists, rheumatologists, also some physical therapy. So we have our own off-site location. Please. Our location is at the south end of Longmont, at the corner of Pike and Main Street. If any of you know where the fancy Prospect housing development is, there's a urgent care center right across the street from Prospect. We're in that large medical building. So please come and see us, come and get some therapy, come and get a tour. Let us nurture you. Yes?
How do we contact you if we have a patient on the unit?
She asked, how do we contact you if we have a patient on the unit?
We're in the hospital with a patient on our unit. You said you came and visited him. How do we get in touch with you if we feel like we have something that needs?
Call 5188. And right now we're doing a pilot with 3 West and 3 South. We're actually going and seeing their patients for pain and anxiety because their HCAP scores have taken a dip for pain. So we're going in with integrative therapies. Anybody else? Invite me back, I'll let you know how Scott's doing.